It's time for the Daily Debrief. I'm Kevin Cirilli. Let's get right to it. We begin with a weekly rewind. The United States House of Representatives voted to expel now former Congressman George Santos.
2/3 voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted, and a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
The House voted 311 to 114 to expel the now former Republican from New York. Santos was accused by the House Ethics Committee of violating federal campaign law. Santos becomes only the 21st member of Congress to ever be expelled, just the 6th member in the House of Representatives. Israel restarted military combat operations in Gaza after a week-long ceasefire. Israeli military officials said that Hamas broke the temporary truce by launching missiles toward Israel. Qatari officials have been working behind the scenes with the U.S. to broker a longer-term peace agreement. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli officials in Israel this week.
We have seen over the last week the very positive development of hostages coming home, being reunited with their families. This process is producing results. It's important, and we hope that it can continue.
Meanwhile, in the U.S., Democratic Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, the highest-ranking Jewish member of Congress, spoke out against a recent spike in anti-Semitism in the U.S.
After October 7th, Jewish Americans are feeling singled out, targeted, and isolated. I want to be clear. I believe most Americans who are criticizing Israeli policy are not anti-Semitic, nor that the vast majority of criticism of Israel's policies is inherently anti-Semitic per se. But it cannot be denied that in too many instances, anti-Semites are taking advantage of the pro-Palestinian movement to espouse hatred and bigotry towards Jewish people.
Schumer, who also criticized Islamophobia, drew praise from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Republican. Lawmakers in Washington are inching closer to an agreement that would provide additional aid to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. But there's a partisan divide about how best to allocate funding to the U.S.-Mexico border. House Speaker Mike Johnson met with his Republican Senate colleagues this week to push for more money to be included for the border. Border funding aside, the funding fight has laid bare inter-party divisions. The left flank is pushing for conditions on aid to Israel. President Biden called it a, quote, worthwhile thought, end quote, but said the White House position on its funding request has not changed. And the right flank is pressing Johnson for there to be more transparency in how Ukraine officials are spending taxpayer money. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is hoping to schedule a vote on the package in the coming days, setting up a showdown in the House shortly before the holiday recess. 2024 presidential hopeful Nikki Haley appears to be surpassing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in the Republican presidential primary race for second place, and the former South Carolina governor got a boost from a couple of business heavyweights who are frequently at odds over many economic issues. The Koch brothers' political-backed super PAC Americans for Prosperity announced that they're backing Haley, saying that she's the best candidate to defeat Trump and Biden. And Jamie Dimon, CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase & Company, praised Haley this week. Trump pushed back against Dimon, calling Dimon a, quote, overrated globalist, end quote, on the ultra-conservative platforms Truth Social. Economists are feeling optimistic, this after Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales set records. Americans spent $38 billion in the 5 days between Thanksgiving to Cyber Monday. That's 7.8% more than last year, that according to Adobe Analytics. Analysts are hoping that it means the economy will beat expectations in the first quarter of next year. Both the Dow and NASDAQ had their best trading month since July of 2022, with each major indices ending a 3-month decline. And there's growing buzz on Wall Street that Fed Chairman Powell will finally begin to lower interest rates, provided inflation keeps trending down. No word yet on whether there'll be a Santa Claus rally. Elon Musk says you can't blackmail a billionaire. Musk, who owns X, lashed out against advertisers who are threatening to leave, and in some cases have already left, the social media platform. Big-name advertisers like Disney and Apple have yanked ads off of X following a rise in anti-Semitic remarks on the social media site. Bring it on, says the billionaire.
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, yourself.
But
Go yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
Earlier this week, Musk was in Israel to patch things over with Israeli officials, and reports suggest that his meetings were well received. The wind decked the halls? Nope, the wind decked down the Capitol and the White House Christmas trees this week. But that didn't stop First Lady Dr. Jill Biden from opening up a holiday ice rink on the White House South Lawn. And up in the Big Apple, Cher helped everybody believe in the holiday magic as she helped light up the tree on Rockefeller Plaza. Memorial services for former First Lady Rosalyn Carter were held this week in Plains, Georgia. Thousands of Americans paid their respects to the 96-year-old mental health advocate who garnered bipartisan praise for her advocacy. The Bidens and the Clintons attended the tribute service in Atlanta, as did former First Ladies Laura Bush, Michelle Obama, and Melania Trump. Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, one of the most influential geopolitical voices in U.S. foreign policy for decades, has died. He was 100. Kissinger had an extensive career in national security and foreign policy, serving in the Nixon and Ford administrations. His influence on global policy was far-reaching, even after leaving the White House. A Senate Judiciary Committee hearing grew contentious this week as Senate Democrats pushed to issue subpoenas against conservative donor Harlan Crow and prominent conservative Leonard Leo. Democrats are investigating their financial relationships with conservative members of the Supreme Court after public reports surfaced that they bought gifts and vacation for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. And breaking this morning, retired Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor has passed away at 93 years old. It was due to complications related to advanced dementia. O'Connor was the first woman to be confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court after being appointed by President Ronald Reagan in 1981. She paved a path for generations of women in law and across the country. And here for a look back as well as a glance forward in the latest political headlines, we have Democratic strategist Amisha Cross and Republican strategist Brian Darling. History sealed, Santos out. What does it mean, though, Brian Darling, for the House Republican caucus as we head toward a potential government shutdown?
Wow, it looks grim because they just lost a vote. And there are rumors that Kevin McCarthy might be heading out the door, too. That brings your majority way down. Every vote matters. It's going to be very tough. And, if I'm in the Republican leadership, I'm real concerned about this move because you just lost a very important vote in passing the NDAA, in passing appropriations bills going into next year. And who knows what's going to happen? It's possible they lose their majority if you have members leaving for one reason or the other going into next year.
All right, well, let's take a look at the criminal indictment. 23 counts, including money laundering, wire fraud, theft of public funds, making false statements to Congress. Amisha Cross doesn't look good, but I gotta ask you specifically, Senator Bob Menendez, should he be concerned as a result of the Santos expulsion?
Absolutely. Bob Menendez should have been concerned before the Santos expulsion, to be honest. And just like in the Santos case, Democrats, California Democrats, have also been very vocal about calling for and wanting to see Menendez leave. So I think that there is something to be said about when your own party in your own home state is also rallying around getting rid of you, largely because of what this looks like. It's criminality, plain and simple.
All right, let's head to geopolitics. It's been a shaky ceasefire, Amisha, but the Democrats are now openly debating whether there should be conditions placed on funding for Israel. Should there be?
That's a tough question. I think that what we're seeing in Israel with some of the humanitarian crises that they have helped to promote has been problematic as a viewer of what's happening. But I also think that there is a need to protect them and to be sure that they are protected from further Hamas attacks. Hamas is not going to go away in the same way Al-Qaeda didn't go away. There is no such thing as rooting out terrorism. And I think that there has to be some level of American support. That special relationship is real. And I'm looking forward to seeing America do what it always does, stand by its allies.
Brian, should there be conditions on Israel? How do you get transparency on Ukraine?
Hey, I'm all for conditions on all U.S. taxpayers going to Ukraine, going to Israel. But obviously the caucus, the Republican caucus, is going to be 100% in support of sending aid to Israel to help them out. I think the Democrats are the bigger problem because they're having internal fights. They're having battles over how to deal with Israel. We've seen it with the president's approval rating, and he's having a tough time figuring out what the sweet spot is with the Democrats.
All right, we got some sad news this week. Sandra Day O'Connor, first female on the Supreme Court of the United States, a moderate conservative appointed by President Ronald Reagan. Brian, your analysis.
Oh, wow. What a sad day. You know, it's just awful when you look back. What a great legacy she had. I mean, an amazing member of the Supreme Court. We saw Rosalyn Carter pass away this week, and it's just been an awful week for the news for people passing away who are in politics and prominent politicians.
Amisha.
This is I think that America mourns the passing of Sandra Day O'Connor. As a woman, I think that, her being a trailblazer cannot be understated. This is a woman who graduated at the top of her class at Stanford Law and wasn't able to practice law because she was a woman. They would not give her a job. So she had to essentially be an assistant to other people, even though she was brilliant. This is a woman who led an affirmative action. This is a woman who stood by and supported things like Roe v. Wade. This is a woman who set a legacy and was very determined. Even though she was appointed by a Republican president, she was someone who did not let partisan politics lead her way.
All right, and to wrap out the week, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the wind almost stopped Christmas here in Washington, D.C. It decked over the tree at the Capitol. It decked over the tree at the White House, but that didn't stop the First Lady from opening the ice rink on the White House South Lawn. But I have to quickly, and very quick, ask you both, what is taller? Which is taller, the Rockefeller Plaza Christmas tree, the Capitol Christmas tree, or the White House Christmas tree? Go, quick, both of you at the same time. Go.
I'd say Rockefeller.
Amisha?
Rockefeller.
You're both right. That surprised me. 80 feet tall compared with about 40 feet for the other two Christmas trees. Amisha Cross, Democratic strategist, Brian Darling, Republican strategist, thank you so much for joining us. And be sure to tune in for the final GOP debate of the year on America's fastest growing cable news network, News Nation, SiriusXM's Megyn Kelly, News Nation's Elizabeth Vargas, and the Washington Free Beacon's Eliana Johnson. They're set to moderate the primetime event live from the University of Alabama as the candidates make their case to America on the only network for all America. The News Nation Republican primary debate live December 6th at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. That's it for today's Daily Debrief. My name is Kevin Cirilli. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel and come back right here for the intersection between politics and policy.